Well, welcome. We're here with Leo and Lady Hawk and Donald and Dusky to announce one of this government's pet policies as Minister for Housing. They're good boy or girl. Stay with them.
Hi everyone. This is a very Lady Hawk. This is a very positive move for renters in New Zealand who want to have dogs, cats, pets in their properties, and we know that many landlords right now just simply say a blanket no to having pets in their properties, and there are good reasons for that. And so what we're doing is outlining 3 changes to the Residential Tenancies Act to make it easier. The first is the biggest one, and it's part of the National Act Coalition Agreement, which is a commitment to introduce a separate type of bond, a pet bond, which will be set at a maximum of 2 weeks extra rent. Landlords can currently charge a 4-week bond period, 4 weeks rent, and so what we're saying is that if you want to have a pet on top of that, you can charge an additional 2 weeks rent that will go to the tenancy bond database and be held by the government on tenants' behalf. The second change we're making is to make tenants liable for all the damage and that sort of thing. Everyone watching and listening will be aware of some of the damage that pets can cause. So we're saying that tenants will be liable for not just the intentional damage or other types of damage. All accidental or inadvertent damage will be on the tenant. And then the third thing will be to say that landlords can only withhold consent for tenants to have a pet in their property on reasonable grounds. There's a bit of uncertainty at the moment. As I say, lots of landlords just simply say, you know what, it's all too hard. Actually, we know that tenants in New Zealand, many of them want to be able to have pets in their rental, and so landlords will only be able to withhold that consent on reasonable grounds. David.
Also add that while this is a wonderful story for many people who'll be able to have their pet, it also addresses a much darker problem, which is abuse of animals to get at people. Pet Refuge are enormously supportive of this initiative because often it's a partner being abused who stays in an abusive relationship for fear their pet will have nowhere to go. Making it easier to get out of an abusive relationship and find a new place to live with your pet is actually something that has been welcomed by a range of people concerned about that particular issue. For the most part, of course, it's going to be people that just have a good boy or a good girl who want somewhere for them to live. The landlord can't reasonably object to them living there. But I also note that there is a darker side to animal abuse, that this will help many people in danger of escape.
So look, as Minister of Housing, I'm very proud of this policy. The Minister for Snuggles down here, Lady Hawk, is also extremely proud of it, and Mr Seymour here, Minister for Regulation, is also part of the National Act Coalition Agreement. It's expected that we will introduce this legislative change as part of the upcoming Residential Tenancies Amendment Bill, which also contains a range of other announcements that we made last week. We intend to have it into the House in May this year. It goes to limit, obviously, and hope to have it into law by the end of the year. In terms of the pet bond regime, hope to be able to bring it into law in late 2025. So we may know we'll make a legislative change in a range of operational improvements to the way the tenant database works. Right now, we get in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to thank Chris as the Minister for Housing for the work he's done and acknowledgement of ACT's role in it too. But the real credit goes to Lord Leo the Leonberger, Minister of Canine Affairs, who's been the true driving force behind this policy. And I understand that Leo has gone a bit rogue and released his own statement, which several journalists will be able to access if you look at your inbox.
Very good. Happy to take your questions. Yes, I do. So a couple of points. The first is that we've talked to the Property Investors Federation about this. ACT campaigned on it. National actually didn't put it in our final rental policy, but we're very pleased that the ACT Party did. And as part of this very collegial and hard-working government, we're pleased to pick it up as part of the coalition negotiations. We talked to the Property Investors Federation about it, and I think it will be widely welcomed by many landlords. Not all, you're going to get a few who will say, no, it's just a hard pass for me, but I think you'll see quite a few landlords pick it up. The second is that if you look at the tenancy tribunal damage that people go through now, on average, from memory, it's about $500 in terms of liability that tenants are up for now when it comes to pets. And so we've just said, rightio, we'll just take the 2 weeks. That's an upper limit. It's a maximum. If landlords want to say just 1 week, that's all good. And actually, if they want to do it now, as the law provides now, they can just have a rental in their property if they'd like it. So it's a bit of a backstop. I'm not going to pretend there's a hard and fast science behind it. We've gone for the 2 weeks. I think that's pretty reasonable. And as I say, it will cover the vast bulk of damage. Lady, shh. You meant to like the policy, not oppose it.
If I'm a landlord currently that has pets in the house, why wouldn't I introduce the 2 week format? That would make it harder to manage.
So if you're currently a landlord and you're offering and you're allowing your tenant to have a pet in the property, then it will be up to the next tenancy agreement to update it. So you won't be able to kind of apply it straight away. It'll be part of the next round of negotiations and the tenancy agreement. So wear and tear, tenants are entitled to occupy a property and have quiet enjoyment of the property and are allowed to essentially have fair wear and tear on the property. Exactly what that means is kind of case specific, and it depends on the rulings of the tenancy tribunal. Clearly a pet smashing up a property, we can all think of examples of where that happens. That would not be fair wear and tear. But look, my expectation is, again, it's over to the tribunal, but my expectation is a few scratches on some rugs and some carpet. That's probably about appropriate for fair wear and tear. In the same way that people living in a property, there's bumps and there's scratches and there's people live their lives, and properties endure some damage as part of that. And fair wear and tear is worked out through the tribunal process.
What is 2 weeks?
Sorry.
Would it be 2 weeks without pets, or would it be 2 weeks and you can have as many pets as you want?
It's 2 weeks for all pets.
So someone can have 1 dog or 6 dogs.
Yeah, and of course it's through negotiation with the landlord. So the landlord might well say, well, look, you want 20 dogs on your property. Nice try, but that's not something I'm up for. The question of reasonableness, again, is something that's worked through as part of the tribunal process. So, look, most tenancy law relies on people actually being reasonable with each other, landlords being reasonable and tenants being reasonable as well. So, for the vast bulk of people, they're going to have a dog or two, they're going to have a cat, goldfish, whatever. People will work that through with their landlord.
So it'll be up to the tenants already to serve reasonable?
Yes.
Tenants are already liable for the damage that their pets do, right? And they can be charged for existing problems. So why do we need to provide that to them? On top of this, you've already taken it.
Yeah, the feedback we've had is that there's a additional fear that many landlords have about the damage that pets can do. I would argue probably an unreasonable or almost irrational fear sometimes. But our view is that, and the feedback we've had from landlords is that allowing landlords to charge an additional couple of weeks, and remember it's just a bond, so in the ordinary course of events, tenants will get that back when they move properties or move on from the tenancy or change their circumstances. It's designed to allow that bit of extra surety, bit of a backstop for landlords to make it more likely that they'll offer a property with pets available.
Just on sort of legal definitions, have you got an idea yet on what reasonable grounds might mean and what
Well, I think pet is relatively self-defining. Reason.
It's a slight difference. May cause as much damage as a Leon burger.
Well, if it's it might be poisonous, you never know. Look, I think the simple answer, Felix, is that there's been a missing market for tenants with pets. These changes create that market, so that if you have a pet that's important to you, you're more likely to find a place to stay. Is 2 weeks perfect? No, but I think it'll be pretty good. Is reasonable grounds perfectly defined? No, but the Tenancy Tribunal has to declare and define every new law. I think actually at the end of the day there's a place for a bit of common sense and people getting on with each other once the government's created the space for that to happen in law, and that's exactly what we're doing. Look, when it comes to people fleeing abusive relationships, if this helps one person get out of an abusive relationship, that's enough. But I recently saw some statistics that show that New Zealanders have more pets than almost any other nation, up in the 40s of percent. We also have a growing generation of renters in our country as home ownership has become harder until this government's policies start to fix that. And therefore you've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are both pet owners and renters. And that's not to mention those people who would like to have a pet, but one of the reasons they've held off is that as a renter it's harder to do. And I suspect one of the things that will occur over the next few years and decades in New Zealand is we'll become more like Europe, where renting is more normal and the law allows people to lead absolutely full lives, including having pets without ownership.
I just
Ultimately, when you do something for the first time, one of the dangers of being a pioneer is you don't have the road mapped out in great precision, but we know it will be more than now, and if we're making the world a bit better every day, then I think we should be happy.
I just encourage you to, you've got to trade me and put in rental properties available in Wellington. There'd be quite a few. Chuck in requirement to have a pet. That number significantly diminishes, and many people watching and listening will have experienced that, and it does constrain choice for tenants, and we want to facilitate and maximise that choice. Well, as I say, we've had feedback from the Property Investors Federations, both nationally and regionally, that this is something that they can get on board with, and their view is that it will make it more likely that landlords offer properties for rent with pets. Well, the point is they can only decline and withhold on reasonable grounds.
A reasonable ground would not be, I just don't want this.
That will be over to the Tenancy Tribunal, but the point is we're shifting the balance towards allowing pets.
I think by suggesting the idea that there are reasonable grounds actually starts a discussion about when you can have a pet in a rental. Who will finish that discussion ultimately will be the Tenancy Tribunal, just like any new law. But at the moment, that whole idea of it being reasonable to have a pet doesn't exist in law. We're putting it in there, and that's going to widen the options of renters.
It's really up to the Tenancy Tribunal to create case law. There is a wee bit of uncertainty here that you're leaving up.
Well, of course, when you're answering questions from the highbrow, pocket square wearing Thomas Coughlan, you go to the constitutional niceties. I suspect in reality that you'll see the ministry issuing some general advice and guidance which will set the initial expectations, and then people just using common sense and being human to human and human to pet evidently will figure out how to fill in the gaps.
For our whānau who do require assistance into private accommodation and who are fleeing issues, will MSD support them by paying for the dog bonds?
Look, I'm not going to start making policy for the Minister of Social Development today, but now one of the... Well, I think first of all that the law has to be in place so that a person could pay a pet bond. And then once you've established what the rental market looks like, then perhaps the Minister for Social Development will have more to say about the kind of assistance that people will give.
So for example, will the legislation make it clear?
Property manager is highly allergic to cats. Would that be a reasonable ground? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, look, as Minister Seymour says, there will undoubtedly be guidance issued by Housing and Urban Development and MB on this. Our intention is to provide for good faith conversations between landlords and tenants about having a pet in their property. That's a step forward. There are going to be crunchy cases, some of which will probably end up at the Tenancy Tribunal. There are going to be crunchy cases, some of which will end up at the Tenancy Tribunal, and as there's a variety of case law over various different grounds of the RTA right now, that will be worked through, and it will be assisted by the guidance. There are going to be cases on the margins where, the landlord says X and the tenant says Y, and it will go to the tribunal, and we'll work our way through that. That's the way in which the law works in New Zealand.
I don't know about you, Chris, but I reckon take a question or two more, then find our lint rollers.
Will the legislation make clear that the 2 weeks additional bond will be charged to people with X?
Yes.
So just ordinary people aren't charged 6 weeks?
Correct, yes. So it's just for people and tenants seeking pets. And I should also say that people with dogs that are required for a disability will be exempt. So as they are right now.
Fish,
yeah.
Why won't your government commit to funding support services for emergency housing?
We're working that through right now. We've got a whole big reset, for want of a better phrase, around the way emergency housing works. Tama Potaka is responsible for that. We've inherited a situation where the government spends $1 million a day, around $360 million a year on people in emergency housing. In the last 5 years, the government spent over $1.5 billion on emergency housing, and we've now got 3,000 or slightly less than 3,000 now people living in emergency housing, including many families with kids. We're absolutely determined to do better as part of that, and there's a whole range of different things we're looking at as part of that, and I'm aware that some of that funding runs out in June 2024, and as you know, we've got a budget coming up in about 6 weeks or so.
Do you think you could commit to funding support services to at least the same level that they are now?
Well, I'll give you a general comment, which is that it's important that there's a range of ways that people are able to be moved out of emergency housing into social housing, or actually the private rental market, because there's a bit of a misnomer out there that people just go from emergency housing motels into social housing. Actually, many go straight into a private rental, and that's actually often a better place for them. The policy we're announcing today, to bring it back to the point, the policy we're announcing today will help with a bit of that, because sometimes these people need the dogs for companionship, and that helps them with a bit of security of tenure. That's a good thing.
So Kainga Ora, who is the largest landlord, they've already signed up for this, and were they part of the whole proposition?
I'll refer you to Kainga Ora around that to answer that particular question.
So you can't answer anything about MSD or Kainga Ora?
Well, I've just answered about MSD, but in relation to specifically Kainga Ora, I'd refer you to them.
Labour held post-COVID press conferences on the first week of recesses in legislative. You're not holding one today. Why is that?
I'm holding a press conference now with Minister Seymour. We're answering all sorts of questions.
Is this topic not serious enough for you foreign fancy reporters? Yeah.
In all seriousness, why is the Prime Minister or the acting Prime Minister not coming today?
Well, I've got no idea. You'd have to put that to the acting Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I think this is something that many people have asked us for a very long time, and it's a practical, common sense government that's making improvements to the rental market for renters and landlords alike, and we're really proud to deliver it, and so's Lady Hawke and so's Leo.
Yeah, we tried to win the previous two elections and put this policy in place then too, but that didn't work out. Here we are now. You're the Wellingtonian.
Yeah. Look, we're having a really good look at it. If you think about what Wellington needs, State Highway 1 in Wellington right now goes right down through the middle of Wellington, literally down through the centre. It's nuts. It's a choke point already. We campaigned, as you know, on building a parallel tunnel right next door to the current Mount Victoria tunnel. But actually, a lot of people have said to us, you know what, you should just do it all in one fell swoop. Because if you do Mount Vic, you've got to do the basin, you've got to do undergrounding of some form under Aro, and you've got to do the terrace. And so we're taking a good look at a twin tunnel, 4 kilometres, starts at the terrace, goes all the way under the centre, comes out at Wellington Road. Number of advantages to that. Firstly, 15-minute time savings is the early estimate of that proposal. And then the other point I'd make to you is that it allows for Wellington Central to be the livable city that we all want it to be. It's really hard to have walking and cycling and parks and urban development through that part of Wellington when State Highway 1 runs down the middle of it. So I reckon you'll see significant value uplift in that part of Wellington as a result of taking the traffic away from the central city. And it also means that you take traffic off the quays and frees up the quays for better bus priority. So our view is it's worth taking a serious look at because it's a win-win-win, both for congestion, for commuters from my neck of the woods, from the Hutt Valley, Lower and Upper Hutt, and the northern suburbs of Wellington, and it allows for urban development and greater housing intensification in Wellington, and it allows for better bus priority, and it allows for walking and cycling. I reckon it's a win-win. We're having a look at it. It's clearly going to be more expensive than the current option, but look, I think we owe it to Wellingtonians to have a good look at it. And the other point I'd make to you finally is that it also makes it much easier to construct. You do the parallel Mount Victoria tunnel, that's going to cause traffic chaos for a number of years. You build the tunnel, you get Dame Whena Cooper or the equivalent, put it down there and just start tunnelling, and in a few years' time you'll end up with a tunnel. Fantastic. So let's wait and see. We've got to do the work first.
But with the Prime Minister away and Western Peters out of the country, who was running the country?
Well, we've just had a cabinet meeting, and I can tell you that Mr. Peters is the acting Prime Minister, and David Seymour was here as the leader of the ACT Party, and there's a few ministers away, but we're getting on with the job, and we're making announcements today, and there'll be more to come.
Can I just point out, we're running the government. 5.3 million people are running the country.
Good point. Okay.
Minister Bishop, you're
Yes.
the Minister of Kind Order, aren't you?
I am.
Well, then why can't you answer my question around whether or not Kind Order is going to be on board with this pet?
Because they're an operationally independent agency, and it's for them to make the announcement, and you just have to direct yourself to them. Our commitment at the election was to start construction of the Mount Victoria Tunnel by the end of 2026, before the next election. That's still the intention. As I say, as part of that work, we're having a look at all the different options. The what's called the long tunnel now, the 4-kilometre tunnel, alongside the parallel tunnel. As I say, I think it's got a number of advantages to it, and we'll just work our way through that, and Simi and Brown will be leading on that. Well, as I say, our intention is to start construction on a second Mount Victoria Tunnel, of which this is a version. It's the big bang second tunnel option. Our intention is to start that by the end of 2026.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.
Thank you.
Free Palestine. 30,000 a day.